Yo, yo, yo. We're back for another amazing, exciting Testimony Tuesday. So excited. Hey, Charles.
Hey!
I am Jasmine Wilson, and today I am going to be chatting with Charles Chocolate Graham.
And that crowd goes wild.
Charles and I went to LSU together. So, as you guys know, we are talking about humility in December. And so, Charles, we're just going to jump right in. How do you define humility?
Okay, so within the context of, us having a tendency to think highly of ourselves, I would define humility as uh, seeing yourself rightly with respect to God and other people, if that makes sense.
What does that mean?
So just like we tend to think of ourselves as like bigger than we really are in certain aspects of our life, whether it be at work or in a certain friend group or within an organization. And so just understanding how small you are, not that you're insignificant, but you're really not as important or vital or as pivotal as you would believe yourself to be or see yourself within that sphere. And it's not saying you don't matter or what you do isn't important to others around you, but there's nothing wrong with being small or being like a little fish in a big pond.
Yeah. Hearing you talk about that reminds me of how we all have our place. And I think last time we talked about how the big toe is so insignificant, or so not insignificant, it's so small in comparison to like a quad or a back or a hamstring. But it plays such a pivotal role in balance. And so if you break your toe, or if you were born without a big toe, you struggle to find that balance because you don't have that that piece of yourself that would normally be there. And so it's like what the Bible says about how we all work together as individual items or individual things to make sure that the purpose is done in the way that it should be. And so that just reminds me that even though you contribute a small amount, or even though you are or you should see yourself as a small piece of the greater picture, your piece of the picture still matters. Like the picture won't be complete without your input. It's like you're doing a puzzle. You can't do a puzzle without all the pieces.
Absolutely. It's cool to still understand how small of a role you play, but how vital it is, and how something's missing without you. In
Yeah.
a sense.
What do you think that looks like for you in this season?
So, particularly at work, trying to understand that I can learn something from anyone, and everyone has something to teach me. That's how I try and approach humility at work.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. How did you get to this job that you have right now? Because you're originally from San Diego, and then you went to school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and now you're in Portland, Oregon, correct?
Yes.
That is like, go ahead. I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, so that's very pivotal to how I am in my season of humility, or at least 2018. And so we say about maybe like a year or so ago, when I was approaching graduation, I was okay. God, I want 2 job offers, so at least have a choice in my mind. And so I ended up having only one interview by the time I graduated that semester. That ended that semester in December, and it's for my current employer. But it was definitely, from my perspective, under what I deserved, or what I perceived myself to deserve. And like across the board, it was the money, the the benefits, and And I didn't imagine myself living or working in the Portland area. And I mean, you kind of say, there was a little bit of pride on my end of that, and me getting to work and moving out here, just slowly but surely finding out that, from a God side, um, this isn't exactly a punishment or anything like that, but a wonderful opportunity for me to grow and learn from people I never would have come across if it weren't for that. But I feel like the reality of um, God showing up and constructing this how He has is that um, He just doesn't want me to, have a good job, benefits like that, but actually might want to grow me into a better person, someone who's more understanding of who He is and the people around me, and just not learn a lesson in humility, but grow in humility as a person, as a friend, as a brother, as a son.
So something you said that really stood out to me was about the money factor, especially as millennials. We tend to overqualify ourselves. So for me personally, I graduated with my master's in May, but I started looking for jobs in the previous November. So it's November of 2017, I started looking for jobs. I didn't get my current job until over a year later when I started looking for jobs. And so with that being said, I was unemployed from February through November of 2018. And so throughout my entire application process of applying for jobs and all that stuff, I just kept saying, I had a number in mind. And I didn't have a number in mind because, I had this many bills and I'm trying to save and go to this many, I didn't have a real reason. I was just like, a number just came into my head and I was like, yep, I want that much money.
Yeah.
And even now, like, like, especially like I didn't get the amount that I wanted in coming here, which is fine.
Same.
But now that I'm here and I'm receiving the money, I'm receiving the blessing and the benefit, and I'm using my gifts, there's no real reason for me to have wanted that much. Like I don't need it. Like there's nothing that I can do with it except put it, like just put it in an account to save it or recklessly spend it. Obviously, I'm sure there are things that I can do with the money, like travel or invest or, all those things that people do. But right now, at the tender age of 25, that's not something that's in my direct path right now. And so for me to put so much emphasis on financial stability when I know that I'm always going to be cared for, I'm always going to be provided for, I'm always going to have the things that I need. So there's no real reason for me to say, if you don't give me X amount of dollars, I'm not coming. Like, why? Like, get over yourself. Like you don't need it. You have what you need. You have there's no other way to say it, but you have what you need. And so I think that's interesting because that in of itself is such a humbling process, because you have to then say, do I want to walk in obedience, or do I want to hang out here a little bit longer until somebody gives me the amount of money that I want? Or even then, you also have to consider the fact that maybe you're not getting the money you want, but maybe the people you work with are going to be amazing, or maybe the communities that you get to impact are going to be so grateful and so blessed by it. Or you never know what's on the other side until you take that step. And so I think it's really hard for us sometimes to get past that first step, because it's like, this is what I see, this is what I know, this is what I want. But God is saying, like, that's not what I have for you. That's your plan. But my plan is better than anything that you could have ever asked for, thought of, or imagined. And so we have to then humble ourselves and say, okay, take me where you want me to go. Lead me down your path, all those things. Like literally, like just, I give up. I can't control it. And I can't do what you can do through me. So I'm going to let you take the lead on this one. Have you ever thought about the fact that, like, God doesn't need us. Like he doesn't need our help. He doesn't need our agreement. He doesn't need our compliance. Like, he don't need us. He can do it without us. That, to me, that's so like, that in and of itself is humbling, because he specifically said, I don't need you, but I want you to be a part of this. Like, he specifically chose Charles and Jasmine to do this right now for somebody who needs to hear about humility. He doesn't need us. I don't know. For me, it's really just like mind blowing that, like my mind can't fathom and can't grasp that concept, because it's so like, he's such a big God that he could do, like, literally, if he wanted to put it in someone's heart, the exact thing, the exact words that we're speaking, he could do that. Like, he literally could go to somebody in their heart and say XYZ, but he's specifically allowing you and I to speak to them in that manner. And so for me, that in and of itself is just such a like like I get chills just thinking about it.
There's one verse, I can read it. It says, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? That's Psalms chapter 8, verse 3 through 4. Like, this big God, like he just said, and does all these things, yet here he is, using these frail, fickle people. I'm like, man, like, that's awesome.
So that reminds me of a song by Tasha Cobbs Leonard called Gracefully Broken, and how she basically, in the song, she talks about how we are flawed, we are broken, we are hurt people in need of healing and forgiveness and comfort and closure. And she talks about how God allows things to happen to us that would essentially break a non-Christian. Like, it would break, well, we are broken. She says that it breaks us. But he does it in such a caring way that he keeps you in his hands. He protects you and he holds you close, that as you're experiencing those things, that it doesn't hurt you. Like, you feel it and you experience it and you reap the benefits and the harm from it, but it doesn't hurt you. And when it does hurt you, it doesn't hurt you in a way that you're not allowed, or you're not able to grow past that. It affects you in a way that says, this is something that you need for your benefit and for your blessing. And so because of that, I'm going to allow you to go through it, but I'm going to protect you from everything that's happening around you that's not going to get you to the next phase of this life.
Yes, like, I feel like I've heard someone say kind of those same things, where, like, trauma and pain and like going through like horrific things, like, have no purpose outside of God, and on their own, like, they're just terrible and seem like they're purposeless. But in God's hands, right, there's so much more, and therefore ultimately for our good and for his glory. And I know one verse says that he makes the comforted comfortors, something like that. And so, like, through one experience, we can actually help somebody else and help them work through that. It's useful to God, and God wastes none of those bad events or memories that we've experienced.
Yeah.
So, what's humility like for you at your current job?
Wow, that is a great question. So I don't know if I've actually, so I'll just tell you. So I work at a high school. That in and of itself is saying a lot.
No, I understand.
So when I first got there, I thought that they were going to be like, so I'm from New Orleans. I'm in New Orleans. And I think a lot of Black kids are known for having like bad attitudes and being disrespectful and just all these negative connotations that come alongside with the public school education system. And so I was under the impression that I would be met with all those obstacles. And excuse me, it has been nothing but the opposite of that. Like my kids are great. Like I just love them to pieces.
Oh,
It's awesome. Um, my kids are really kind and compassionate and sweet and funny, um, and my coaches are great as well. Like I know a lot of times it's hard to get that good balance between having both athletes and good coaches. But my coaches are genuinely appreciative of what I bring to the table, and the compassion that I have for what I'm doing, or I'm sorry, not the compassion, the commitment and the passion that I have for what I'm doing. And so I think my humility process took place before I got here. Um, because I didn't want to accept the job. I didn't want to move back home. I didn't want to do all these things. And so before I even drove back to New Orleans, I needed to get it in my mind that what I'm about to walk into is not about me. It's not about the financial stability. It's not about what I want. It's not about the comfort and it's not about me at all. Everything that I'm doing here is
mm-hmm.
because it's for someone else. Someone else needs my presence. Someone else needs my encouragement. Someone else needs the gifts and the blessings that I bring forward. So by the time I got to the school, I was already like, I had already come to terms with it. I had already accepted it. I was excited about it, and I was just ready to serve. And so with that being said, it really has been an interesting journey and process. Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I don't feel like okay, I take that back. There are times where I'm like, I get really like snappy and sassy, and then I have to pull back and be like, wait, like you're not here for that. Like, calm down. And it's really hard for me to like be vulnerable with certain things at certain points, especially if it's so early within a relationship. And so I have to remind myself, like, they're trying to get to know you just like you're trying to get to know them. So you have to be willing to open up and share things with them just like you want them to share things with you. But I think the biggest thing for me has been just being able to help them, whether that be physically, whether that be mentally, whether that be spiritually, emotionally. Because a lot of times athletes are seen as just athletes. They're seen as just, what can you do on the court? What can you do on the field? What can you do on the track? And no one takes the time to truly get to know them as a person. No one takes the time to say, I care about you, or, even if you're hurt, there's still things outside of your sport, or, just helping them as a person, because not all high school athletes are going to go to college and play their sport. Like, that's just a given. And not all high school or not all college athletes are going to go on to be professional athletes. And so they have to know how to function as a person before they can function as an athlete. Like, and I think that's one of my biggest concerns, just being able to be there for them, just being a person for them when they need that, rather than being someone that's like, you got to score so many points and you got to get so many digs and you got to hit so many balls. It's just like they get enough of that when they go home, and they get enough of that, from their peers and from their coaches. And so I think it's nice to just have that release and have that place where, if I want, I can just go somewhere and talk. I just try and do what I can to make them feel like they're welcome. I try and do what I can to make them feel like I'm here for them and I'm in their corner. And I think it also helps that another concern that I had was, because I look so young, I was worried that they would take me to play with, that they would, really try and challenge my boundaries. And they really haven't done that.
So has it hit you that you're about 10 years older than some of your students?
Wow. They just need to see that I care. And so for me, I don't think age is such a big deal as compared to my presence and showing them that I'm here for you. Like, I would have to remind myself every day that I get nothing out of coming here. Like, I mean, it brings me joy to see that they feel better and, all those things that come along with that. But in terms of what I get from it, like, I don't get anything from it, because it's not about me. And I'm constantly being reminded of that every time I'm able to give one of them something or some piece of myself. And so it's been a great experience. I'm really enjoying it. I'm also trying to remind myself that, because, anytime something is new and it's fresh, you're always just like, yes, I'm excited. It's great. I love it. It's amazing. And we make it these big things. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to remind myself that it is a program and a system of broken people, and that those broken people just need grace. They just need forgiveness. They just need,
Yes.
all these things. And so I'm trying not to put it on a pedestal. I'm trying not to make it bigger than what it is, because um, even though it's all great and it's, rainbows and sunshine right now, it's not going to be like that forever. It may not be terrible. I pray that it does not end up being terrible, but I'm going to have those arguments with those kids. I'm going to have those confrontations with those coaches. I'm going to have those hard conversations with parents. And those may not be the fun days, but I have to then take advantage of the fun days, because that's what makes it worth it. It makes it worth it when you can be a selfless sacrifice and give something, knowing that there's very little that you can take back with you in return. And for me, that has been the most humbling part of this experience, is knowing that I'm pouring out so much of myself. I'm investing so much of my time. I'm investing so much of my resources to make this look like something that's appealing, but then for it to also be something that you feel like when you see Miss J, you know that she's in my corner. When you see Miss Jazz, you know that she's got my back. And so for me, it's just a constant, like, okay, what are we doing today? Like, how can I make it better? How can I make it work for them? How can I help them to see why they matter and why what they do is important to how they care for their body, how they care for their teammates, how they care for, like their families and their futures. Yeah, so it's been a journey, but it's been a great one, and I'm excited for where it's going.
Oh man, I'm glad. It's exciting to hear.
I know I said a lot, but that was like it. When like it's like I feel like you feel something, and it feels good, but you can't put it into words. Like,
yeah,
that's what it's been like. I can't explain it. Like, there are no words that I can use to show and to share how great this experience. You just have to feel it. Like, you just have to maybe rub shoulders with me, or be in the environment when I'm there with them. But there's so much love, there's so much support, there's so much passion, and not just from me, but from the coaches. And then when the coaches have it, then the players buy in, and it's amazing. It's great. I love it.
Just getting back to humility, I couldn't have conceived these things for myself 9 months ago or to a year, where all I was thinking about was the location and the money and what I do. And so now I'm like, when people ask me, how's your job? Like, I tell them, like, literally the best thing is, for me, it's the group and the benefits, of course. But literally my team who I work with and just the people, for multiple reasons.
The people make it so worth it. Like, it's about the people. Like, if you go to work for any other reason other than the people, it's not going to be the same. And I think that's another thing that made it so easy for me going in, was because I had already made up my mind that it's not about me. Once you learn to die to what you want, life becomes so easy, easy. And it's like, it's not about how I feel. It's about the people that are in this building, the people that can't help themselves, that need me to help them. And that's it. Another thing that makes this worth it is because when I was their age, I didn't have someone like me. I didn't have someone who cared about me as a person and then focused on what I could do for them. I didn't have someone that said, you matter, you're important. Everything else that's supposed to happen to you will happen in its timing and in its rightful place. So that makes me even more inspired to go there and to show them what you're doing is important, what you're doing matters, but how you feel and who you are is also important. Like, you can't just focus on one part of yourself. You can't just focus on the sport or just the student. You have to focus on the whole thing. And the fact that I'm so committed and so compassionate and so passionate about mental health and my spiritual life, that for me is a big foundation and a big propellant of what pushes me and encourages me to continue to do this. But it's so important that they see people that look like them. Like, it's so important that they see people who have climbed the ladder, who have worked hard to get to where they are. And my route has not been traditional by no means of the word, but it's so important that the Black community sees especially Black kids. Like I didn't see very many Black people, you know, doing what I wanted to do when I was in high school. And so,
Uh-huh. Like I'm kind of like on the opposite side of, you know, who I like having people there for me that push me and stuff like that, because
mm-hmm.
I know for a fact from high school and through college, like I wouldn't be here and made it through if it weren't for people, particularly Christians, particularly Black women,
Mm-hmm.
cared about me and loved the Lord enough to like say, like have those hard conversations,
Yeah.
speak hard truths
Mm-hmm.
into my life in college, particularly as a student.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I am blessed and favored
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's allowed me to do things and experience things that other people didn't get the chance to. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just because I had a support system around me that extended beyond my blood relatives
Mm-hmm.
and even like my home church. And once I left, yeah. And so it makes me want to serve all the more.
What is a word of advice you would give to someone who is struggling with humility right now?
Okay. So I feel like for people who are control freaks or kind of want things their way, I feel like you exert a lot more effort
Mm-hmm.
trying to control things and
Yeah.
force them to be how you would have them be. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not to say you shouldn't put in effort and do what you can whenever you can,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a certain type of peace and rest you get from God when you understand that like you are insignificant. I know you're not insignificant. You're not as pivotal as you perceive yourself to be, and
Mm-hmm.
these things will happen whether you want them to or not, or even God can just get somebody else to do it. Like you're
Yeah.
not that important,
Right.
and that's peace. That's for me. That gives me peace because you know at the end of the day, God's going to accomplish what He wants to accomplish
Mm-hmm.
with or without me. Um, there are certain things that are inevitable that I won't be able to change, or even certain things, like as you said before, come in their own time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can kind of just step back and step away from, you know, trying to have your hands on the steering wheel of whatever it may be. You can conserve your energy. You can have peace with it. You can kind of relax
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy those opportunities or just the moment and the
Yeah.
things that you're in. I feel like when you're trying to spend so much time getting to the next step or the next whatever, you miss out on the opportunity to enjoy those around you, enjoy
Mm-hmm.
how God has blessed you and the favor He's given you. It's definitely beautiful to understand how intricate and
Mm-hmm.
detailed and committed um, God has been working um, in my life.
Yeah. It's always amazing that you have to remind yourself that he chose you. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
he could get anyone to do it. And even if you don't do it, he will get someone else to do it. And you'll just miss the blessing and the benefit of that. But the fact
Mm-hmm.
that he chooses us is so humbling because he's the God of the universe. He can do whatever with whomever he wants to do. But he loves you so much and he sees so much potential in you that he says, I want you to do this because it's not going to benefit me. It's going to benefit you if you just listen and be obedient.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that stood out to me was that control freak that you talked about. That was me. And so college for me is a very like vague memory because one, I was trying to control everything, and two, I was so focused on getting to the next level and getting to the next step and what's happening tomorrow that I never appreciated the moment. I never focused on how is this moment that I'm in right now blessing me? What can I do to appreciate this moment and have so much gratitude for this space?
Uh-huh.
But that is one of my big focuses, is making sure that I'm in the moment, that I'm present, that I'm actually listening to you, that I'm engaging you, that I'm looking you in the face and making you know that I'm here and I'm listening and I care about what you're saying. Um, and so I would just say, like, you have to be willing to follow God through anything and everything, to know that um, what you're doing is not for you, and then you also have to accept that it's not about you. Like, It's never going to be about you. Like, there's never going to be something that God says for you to do that's about you and that's for your benefit. It's always going to be for someone else, and then you'll get a benefit from that selfless sacrifice.
Yeah, like I think was some verse says, "By grace you have been saved, so that no one should boast." Right? Like you didn't earn your salvation. It wasn't any particular ability of yours that like, oh, God was like, okay, I'm gonna save them because I like that, you know.
Yeah.
And so just thinking we could, or not we, God could accomplish all of his plans without ever needing human intervention or us to play a role in his redemptive story for us. But because, you know, he wants us to know him fully and know him for ourselves, and not only just, you know, be saved and enjoy him in heaven, but actually like mold us and grow us and change us from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that takes us, you know, being him working on us and through us and saying, you know, I can do this better, but I'm gonna include them in it for their good.
Did you enjoy this?
Of course.
I did too. This was really good. Is there anything else you would like to add before I close us out?
Jasmine is the GOAT. Read and keep up with Going With Him and Testimony Tuesdays.
Yes.
Shout out to Charles Chocolate Graham.
Yes.
For showing up today, you know, being dedicated and committed.
It means so much to me that you would sacrifice your time to share about humility and share what your testimony has been like. Thank you, Charles Chocolate Graham, for speaking with us today. If you'd like to follow Charles on Instagram, you can find him at chocolate_Graham. Well, friends, I hope you have been blessed by our time together. I hope that you have picked up some nuggets and some wisdom and some jewels that you can hold close and begin to implement in your life. For now, I'm Jasmine, and you are
Going With Him.
Yes!